back to season 2 of the My Place to Be podcast. In today's episode, we'll be talking about the current rights of women in Afghanistan
and the current rights of women in the U.S.
Gameplay/gaming.
My name's Henry.
I'm Addie.
I'm Emma.
Your name's Bentley. His name's Bentley.
Is it?
Alright, first I would like to say that I understand that the Middle East, for a long time, has oppressed women for a while. I know, big shocker, guys. But the things we're going to talk about now are recent events. So as of late August, something went into place called Article 13, which is not an official law, of course, because the Taliban took over Afghanistan because the U.S. military left because we were out of resources and all that, which is bad because it's a terrorist group, and that's pretty bad, guys. Although it's not an actual law, it might as well be. We'll be focusing more so on the women's rights aspect because that is what Article 13 mostly does talk about. This is not the first time this has happened. The Taliban took over in the 90s to early 2000s. It's happened multiple times. It's not crazy new. So essentially what Article 13 is doing is it is making it so women cannot show any part of their bodies in public, cannot be seen by male doctors, cannot go to school. They can have some jobs, but do not get the required level of education for them. So if you're going to become a doctor, you are not going to have a doctorate, which is, of course, dangerous. So these women who have medical issues are going to doctors, which are other women who are not properly trained. However, there are underground schools for young girls. I'd just like to mention that they can have a primary level of education, which is your 1, 2, 3s and ABCs. So there's that. Every advertisement that depicts a woman's face has had to be painted over, which I think is crazy, actually. Okay, cool, I guess. So when the Taliban first took over, again, late August, women were kind of warned and said, okay, or not women, but their husbands are hey guys, keep your ladies in their houses because our men are not trained to respect women. So that's awesome. So you cannot be more than 40 miles away from your husband or your father or your brother, just some kind of man in your family, and you have to be seen with a man in public. So, and I would just like to say all of the punishments for these crimes are public beating and your husband going to prison. It's fear mongering, because it's not even these people are being put in jail, but they're being humiliated, beaten, and with women's lack of access to proper medical care, or I guess anyone's, because Afghanistan's kind of poor, it's not good. Women are not allowed to go to parks, gyms, public baths, or salons. That's self-explanatory. So you can't take your kid to the park, or you can't go to the gym, which sucks. They can't show their eyes, so they have some mesh cloth over their eyes. And the whole thing about this, you may be wondering, okay, well, why is the Taliban doing this to these women? To avoid the very slim possibility that a woman may be tempted by a man. Or, I guess, to protect the men from being tempted by the women. The very slight chance that could happen. Which is funny because the Quran has, I don't know the exact quotes, but it implies a lot throughout the entire book that men and women are equal, and that because they are both worshipers of God, that they are essentially the same. And it also says worship your mother. So I don't know what these are just political extremists, religious extremists. They're just using any excuse to take over this country. Oh yeah, here's a quote. The best of you are they who behave best to their wives. So if you beat your wife, you suck. Who thought, man? It's crazy. It also says that men and women are each other's protectors. Of course, that's not the exact way it's said, but it's heavily implied. Oh, I forgot. No public speaking. So if I went outside, I'm a big yapper. So if I went outside and I said hello, public beating. It's crazy. The band music too. Just the Taliban took over in the 90s to early 2000s. This has happened multiple times in the past. All right, any thoughts on that, gang?
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Okay, where have you been?
I have ADHD.
Henry, what's people in Afghanistan were running to the last US airport, and it was pretty bad because these weren't soldiers that were running up to the US airports. These weren't politicians or people who were kind of high up on the little pyramid there. They were families, and like children, women, fathers, didn't matter. And the Taliban was just kind of, they had snipers and stuff, and they shot them all down. So that's very unfortunate. Women are not allowed to show any part of their body in public. So they have to wear something that covers their entire body, including their eyes, because apparently it is so difficult for these men to just simply not look at these women that they have to cover up every inch of their body, which cannot be comfortable, I will say.
Imagine going outside, you're just dripping sweat.
I mean, it's got to be hot. They're in the Middle East. So women are also not allowed to go to school. Now, they are allowed to get a primary level education. However, they are not allowed to, like, every woman who was in college had to immediately drop out, because if they hadn't, they would have been like stoned, which is crazy. What do you want to say?
So you're saying they get cookie cutter education, pretty much?
I don't know what that means.
Like, not good education?
Yeah, it's bad. There are underground schools, however, for these women. So, but of course, if they're found, they are beat, because the punishment for a lot of these crimes is public beating, which is unfortunate. A woman cannot leave her husband. So if they're in public, a woman cannot just walk outside of her house. She has to have her father, her husband, somebody who is a man accompany her for whatever reason. They cannot go to parks, gyms, public baths, or salons. Can't show their eyes. And cannot be touched by any man, including doctors, which is bonkers because these women cannot receive the proper education to become a proper doctor. So, yes, there are some female doctors, but they don't have the proper education to be able to help them. What most people think when they think about this tragedy is like, oh, well, that sucks. That's pretty bad, right? And obviously it is. But one thing I will say is that it's more than just the tragedy of Afghanistan. When you have millions of people who are completely unable to speak in public or do anything aside from be a baby Pez dispenser, the amount of lost potential. There, some of these women could be like the next Mozart, or they could be fantastic cooks, poets, doctors, and yet I don't think people understand how far ahead in society, like worldwide, that we would be if women were listened to earlier on. Mozart's sister was a prodigy. And the fact that I don't even know her name kind of says a lot. She taught Mozart how to play piano, and yet she's not really known. All right, so one thing I did forget to mention was that with Article 13, they actually updated the like legal marriage age to 9 years old. One thing I do hear people say a lot is that we shouldn't have, like, American troops should have not been in Afghanistan for as long as they had, and I agree, because by having so many troops in Afghanistan for so long, it made it's so like the people were almost like dependent on it. It is believed that because the U.S. troops were in Afghanistan for roughly like 20 years, that the people of Afghanistan did become dependent on the protection that the U.S. did provide. Another thing to add with that is that once the U.S. went to Afghanistan, we were like, hey, drop everything. Like, we will help you protect your country as long as like you help us, because we were also getting different people from Afghanistan actually coming to help us fight the Taliban with them. And once we left, we did it so abruptly that I mean I understand that we were running out of resources, but also I think it should be made clear that the way in which we pulled out of the situation was inappropriate. I do feel like, because these people who just dropped everything to come and fight the Taliban, I mean, we kind of cut them off cold turkey, which I don't think was very appropriate.
Did you know that one of the main reasons why women's rights took so long for us to start is because men would say that women were too emotional to make their own decisions?
That's interesting, actually. But wasn't like women's hysteria like an actual diagnosis and it was like treatable?
That ain't treatable, boo.
Oh,
Whoa.
but Bentley, you have something to say?
It's making me feel weird that I'm the only guy in the room, and since this happened, it's making me feel like I did something wrong with you guys.
Yeah.
That's perfectly fine, actually.
There was over a dozen countries that gave women their rights before the U.S. did.
Yeah, like, and also just the fact that like the U.S. is like a new country, like the fact that the other countries who had women's rights for so long, they're like, guys, the U.S. maybe you might want to give women rights, and we're like, no, sir.
We have the power. Why would we give it away?
Men.
New Zealand was the first one to give women their rights back in 1893, and then followed after that with Australia in 1902, which they were the first few countries who gave women their rights, which I think is kind of cool, because what gave them the want to do it? Like,
Yeah. Also, like New Zealand and Australia are also just like overall very happy countries, though.
that's so fair.
But that's like 1800s, so like they still took forever.
Teddy Roosevelt was one of the biggest parts of women's rights because he was one of the few men who stood up for women's rights in the U.S., which I think is kind of cool.
I love you, Teddy. He's like one of my favorite presidents. He's awesome.
I love Teddy. His name is kind of funny though.
Actually, he inspired the teddy bear.
Did he really?
Mm-hmm.
That makes so much sense though.
Yeah. One thing I will say is that in the Victorian era, like women were like, or even before then, I feel like in the U.S. like especially, it was so weird because if my son just died, I'm really sad. Then you would have like women's hysteria. Like it was a diagnosable thing. Like I don't know. I feel like being upset is kind of normal.
Why would emotions be like a doctor's
Someone's calling
diagnosis?
Because you're not supposed to have them.
Whoa, dude. Yeah. Is this supposed to all be email or something?
Yeah, it's crazy. Okay, so now Bestie Bentley over here is going to be talking about the pros and cons of gaming.
Alright, bros. So what we're going to talk about is how gaming affects teens in a good way / kids or adults, however you want to put it.
Yeah,
All right.
It's pros and cons, man.
Nah, it's only good. I'm just joking. So the bad sides of it are that if you're playing an online game and your mom tells you to get off of it, she doesn't care if it's online. She just wants you to like take out the trash at the end of the day. But like also with the trash, like I'm all the way in the basement. You're where the trash is at. Why can't you take it out? All right, that's just like an example why like if you have to get off the game, it really sucks. You get mad, and it affects your brain cells apparently and makes them go down. My brain cells are probably really down because I play them a lot. So I have severe ADHD as well, which probably makes my ADHD even worse from playing games. But also, there's like teamwork involved with it. So say you're playing Fortnite and I'm playing with 2 other people. If I leave, so pretty much you're going up against 3 people when you have 2 people, which isn't fair unless you're like really cracked at the game, which some people are, some people aren't. So it's kind of like 50-50. So there's teamwork involved, and like obviously you can get headaches from playing video games straight. So I've gone days where I play 12 hours a day and not doing anything else.
That's not good. That's terrible.
I've done it a lot over the summer actually. So I actually shortly after my sleep has been really bad. I don't fall asleep easy, so I just like play games, and it can affect sleep. And like say you go to school, you're like really tired and you're just like your head's down in class because you're like so tired and your head's hurting.
Are you just describing yourself now?
Yeah,
Kinda.
Bentley, so you're trying to convince the audience that gaming is healthy and good for people, and you're like, yeah, guys, I actually have chronic migraines.
I'm just saying that if it can affect your brain cells, your head, your eyesight. I mean, I some people have to wear glasses because of gaming because they're staring at a screen so
You have to
much.
wear glasses.
And I broke them.
Just don't wear
I
them.
sat on them. So, all right, the teamwork. Let's talk about teamwork. So, I've already talked a little bit about it. So, there's different games, obviously. Some games don't require teamwork. So, teamwork is pretty much like, I'm just going to say Fortnite because it's a popular game. So, if there's like a couple other people playing with you, like say one of them dies, right? It's your responsibility to make sure they can come alive again. And if you don't do that, so sometimes you have to sacrifice some stuff that you're doing at the moment to help your teammates, because your teammates and you are the most important thing. So if you don't have a teammate, then it's like your soldiers down. Like it's a big like no. Socializing with other people. So gaming can affect that, but also like it's a good thing and a bad thing. So the bad things about it are like you're kind of depressed sometimes. So you like gaming like kind of like if you're watching TV/gaming, you kind of just don't want to talk to anybody. If they talk to you, you might get mad because you're trying to play a game, and like it can just affect it, but it also can increase your socialization because when you socialize, like say you have the same interests, you talk about the same things, which like say another kid likes the same thing as you talk about that all day. So like it's like good and bad. I'm gonna let Addie talk because I'm tired.
Bentley, I think that your points are very awesome sauce. Not gonna lie to you, man. That was very insightful. I like how you took both the good and the bad, and you kind of said that too.
I've been playing video games since I was like an infant. So I remember at my brother's dad's apartment. It's a crappy apartment. I used to sit on the Xbox playing these like Lego games. Apparently, I just played these like Lego games. I remember playing Lego Batman, and I always used to ask my brother's dad to help, and he's like, "Oh, I don't know how to do this, buddy. You're gonna have to ask your brother." My brother was like 2 or 3. Like we were both really little, so I've been playing video games a solid at least 10 years. So I've had a lot of experience with some games. Like obviously, I'm gonna like say this. I'm not good at Roblox. I'm not.
He's not.
I don't like Roblox that much anymore because you just like switch and switch games. It's like Roblox is like a lot of people play it. It just like to switch and switch and like why switch and switch like
You want something that you can play for like hours at a time.
yeah, hours at a time, not like doing anything else. Roblox, 20 minutes a game, 20 minutes, 20 minutes, and
Yeah.
it just keeps going on. So some games are like really boring like that, but there's like other games that you can just sit the whole day and play.
All right, Bentley, what is your number one recommended gaming console?
PC because you get the most amount of performance out of any game because you can build your computers, and consoles you're just stuck with what you have.
Yeah.
PCs there's no limit, you can keep going, And there's some graphics cards that cost over $2,000. Just that one part.
That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, like I know with my like Nintendo Lite, and then it applies for a lot of big gaming consoles. You can't mod them.
Yeah, you can. Over the years, I have a computer. You can mod it. Like I could
Mhm.
switch it out and keep switching.
Or even mod different games. Like if you have an Xbox, like unless it's connected to a computer, you can't add different like mods to video games.
Yeah, PC is way better because you can play games and you also can do like any other thing a computer would do.
Mhm.
You just have to get like one that's gaming related because if you get a Mac, that kind of sucks.
My grandma had a Mac. It was bad.
Macs aren't necessarily bad; they're just not for gaming.
That could work.
So PC's the best. They cost a lot more, but if you have the money, I'd buy it.
Yeah.
If you want to play games.
All right. Goodbye, everyone. This has been the My Place to Be podcast.